Hey everybody, it's Nick. I got a quick update for you on the previous round of tutorials for the latest lab involving DIVA and VRay. One thing I noticed with students is that the VRay instructions I gave don't seem to be working correctly for everybody, and I think I have a workaround for that. The way we used like the clipping plane before, we made a plane and then we went into VRay and we converted it to a clipper. Um, the thing that I found that works, or seems to be working best for everybody, is if you use the VRay tools here and you make a clipping plane here. If you don't have those VRay tools, you can go in to your little gear up here and go to Show Toolbar. And I kind of lost it here. Um, go to Show Toolbar. Come on, there we go. And go to VRay Compact or VRay All, or one of these. Basically, you can get that to pop up, and then you can use that tool, and then you can get the effect you want. Let me kind of take you back through the steps here. So I got a camera already built that's got a perspective, and it's looking. I kind of want to see the effect of the light through the screening device that I have, and this like Oculus. So if I go ahead and get rid of that, I go to the clipper plane and you just draw a rectangle, and you can move the plane, in the top view and kind of get the effect you want. I'm putting it like right in the center of this object here, and then that's going to give me the result here. Now you'll notice also, and you gotta be careful about this, that the way that it's currently cut, it's as if you actually cut the object, and we don't want that. So go to Asset Editor, go into your scene objects here, and under Clipping Plane, go to Options and turn off Effect Light, and you can see now, you can see all the edges here. And notice how long it takes to redraw that. That's because there's actually less light coming into the space, and it's got to be gathered, by the computer for the exposure. You can see there's a real difference there, right? This is where the computer is really cool because you can actually cut it without cutting it. And in order to really get the effect you want, you really want to go in and lower the exposure value because you want to gather more light. If you don't have as much, it's just going to be really dark, and that's not what you want. You want to show that there's light coming in and that it's making a contribution. It may not be that much light, but architecturally speaking, you really want to show the effect of it, and you want to make it look good. So go ahead and reduce that number. Go ahead and give it time to gather. When you actually render it, you'll get a pretty clean, um, view of that. Also, don't forget you can like manipulate the sun to give you the best possible time of day or time of year to really show that contribution. So go ahead and do that. Other than that, though, the other thing is if you just want kind of a black background, I just go ahead and uncheck, the background, and that gives me a nice black background, which I can use. Just it makes a really clean image. You can always just go in, to the alpha channel, when you save the image, and use that also to cut the background out. If you want a white background, that's another way to do it. I think actually you could probably just make the background white. Yeah, sort of. The exposure is going to really affect that, so I wouldn't really mess with that. But in any case, um, very important things for the grade, for the like for the assignment. You've got to make sure that when you're in that object that you've turned off effect light and that you got the exposure right. You're really seeing what that looks like. That's very important for the different times of day that you're testing. And like for those kinds of effects. So anyway, just make sure you pay attention to that. And if you have an issue with it, with the direction, you can go ahead into the properties when you have the clipping plane selected, and go ahead and select the clipping plane, and then you can choose, like flip direction. And that should fix any problems you have. So anyway, if you have any questions for us, let us know. But that should solve most of the issues that I've been seeing from some of the students. I don't know why the clipping plane isn't working the way that it used to, but definitely it works when you have the toolbar and you just go ahead and make a clipping plane. That should just be fine. All right, see you later. So one other quick thing that I saw was saw some student work before the break that looked kind of like this, where folks had this the kind of light study, and then but what they're showing just looked like this kind of soft shadow. You gotta be careful. Like it really needs to look like the crisp shadow envelope study that I demonstrated in the video. And the key to that is to make sure if it's not working, have it on, change it to DIVA sun path. Okay, you can see it gives you these overlapping kind of envelopes. They're more or less crisp, but they're going to give you that geometry that really shows you where the shadow reaches over the range of times that you have. And just make sure that you've got it set up. If you're in the component, you're going to use custom display. You're set to DIVA sun path. Anything other than that is really not going to give you those shadows. And again, remember, if you're not seeing anything, like if it's all black, you need to uninstall VRay. You cannot use this view type, this DIVA SunPath, with VRay installed. I don't know why, but it doesn't work, and it's not going to let you complete the assignment if you do that. So it needs to really look like it does in the video, and if it doesn't, you need to go and like find us. If you just have like blurry shadows, that's not really diagnostic. It's not going to help you design. It's not what we asked for. So be very careful about that. So the next piece I want to talk about is when we do the solar radiation study. I don't know if something's changed with the software since the last time I recorded the tutorial, or if I just got it wrong in the first place, but not seeing the results that I expect when I'm following the method that I gave you. So for example, I made this kind of, lame, kind of like pavilion here, and there's like this shading device. And what I said was that, you know, um, you go to the grid objects, you want to take the input as the objects you want to analyze, and then anything else goes into the objects, like container. And what I'm seeing when I do that is not the result that I would expect, and I'll just show you what I mean. So if I go in, and again, I've got the 5 objects here, so one building, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and the shading device in this piece. Don't worry about the spacing for now. And then I just have the ground plane um, in there as a scene object. And what I end up with is just something like this, which is hang on a minute. I might have to re-initialize this here. And one thing you'll notice too is that this calculates very quickly. Hang on a minute. There we go. Yep. So really, really, really simple. Not a lot of nuanced information. It's just like, oh, there's a lot of sun here. Like, there's not as much sun on the east side. There's more sun on the west side. Not really very nuanced. Like you'd really expect to see, the contributions of the shading device on the object. That's how you know that the simulation's not working right, right? You can use your kind of common sense and you can intuit, what that should look like, and that's not really good information. That doesn't really tell us very much. So what I figured out was what you actually have to do is put everything into the context. And I actually went ahead and started to put everything into the simulation, including the ground, because I kind of like to see what the contributions to the radiation on the ground are, as that might actually give us some more information for how to design the object. And to do that, what I did was I just do a merge component, and it's real simple. I'm just going to go ahead and plug in all these objects here and all these objects there, and what that gives me is going to be just a list with everything. And what I ended up doing, I'm going to turn this off first, otherwise it's going to run really quickly. Plug it in for the geometry. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in for the context as well at the same time. And then I'm going to go ahead and hide everything again. And actually, real quick, I just want to show you some. I'm going to show you what actually makes a difference here. So I'm going to hide my shading devices, and I'm going to go ahead and input that as the geometry. And so all I have is the ground and the building. Okay. And then we go ahead and run that simulation, and it's going to take a minute. So just kind of sit tight here. So it's 2 objects, and they're being calculated. And There we go. Okay, you can see everything's all, uh, spotty and everything. That's just because the objects are in the same plane, so just hide the original objects. So there we go. So now, turn these off too. Let's see here. Something is, oh, there we go. Turn those off too. Aha, okay, there we go. But you can see though, you can see the kind of contribution of that, how it kind of bounces. You can see how the light kind of gets into the space in the doorway. There's just a whole lot more nuanced information in this than the original. Okay, but you can also see, like how, this is exposed. You might want to put a shading device on it. You might, depending if these are maybe even in the front of the building or whatever, you might want to put a shading device on it. And that's why we would do something like this, and we would have these kind of bars. And again, I do a terrible job with this just so that I can demonstrate it for you. I'm really trying to just encourage you guys to do better. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my geometry here. Sorry, here. And then I'm going to run it again with the shading device. And then we'll see what the contribution is. And again, some of the stuff is intuitive, but it's very nice to be able to demonstrate for yourself, for your client, for your professor in this case, that you understand what's happening and you understand what the contributions of the various elements are. And, and in this case, like you could do a side-by-side study, and you can see, aha, like look at the shading that I've created, with this device. You can see what that does. That's why we do that. And that's what I want you guys to do for the assignment. So if yours looks similar to the one that I did, in the first example, where it's just flat areas, I would go back and redo it, and I would use this method. I'd go ahead and use the merge, go ahead and put everything in for the analysis, and everything in for the context, and see how that runs. The spacing looks pretty good here. I wouldn't really mess with it. So this is all, it runs relatively quickly. Gives me a pretty good result. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful. I did not, I had some students point this out to me, and I appreciate that. So hopefully this fixes things for you guys. But this is what I want, and this is what works. So, all right.